Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Nah. I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be the ones, but let's not be selfish, and because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it.
Nah.
You know, if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody going to clean it up.
Welcome. It's the time to explore the crash out and mystery in this week's breakdown episode, articulating all the things people just recently caught up to notice. That's the mantra, reminder here at the beginning. Let's get straight into all the components correlated. When you're built up to be smart, you're not supposed to be revenge driven. You're supposed to be intelligently vengeful. You're supposed to be a Siberian tiger. What that means is you have Aqua and you built them up to be intelligent and manipulative. But you have the nudge with Aqua still having aspects of himself from Goro. So when you mix that, who says he can't use manipulation to set up his father in the exact way his father set up his mother? Because Aqua was supposed to actually have some fans or a fan be manipulated and at that moment kill the father, because guess what? There's people doing worse. There's literal people doing worse. We're not about to have isn't that bad? Because if someone's coming after your loved one and all other means of protecting your loved ones have been exhausted, you're gonna do what you have to protect your loved one. That it is what it is. You get what I mean? Aqua should be able to sleep good at night, knowing that he got rid of who was discontinuing too many people. And if someone is willing to trade their ability to navigate for a certain amount of years across the continents, you can't be upset at Aqua. He is making his own informed decisions based on everything that he became alert about, that he wants to trade in his freedom. And plus, he's 18. So really, is he trading away his freedom? Because really, when it comes to these continents, especially Japan, they take the psychological aspect into account. If there was a dude that literally ate some lady in Europe and they say, oh, he was bonkers, you know, he invited her to do some piano thing and then he literally ate her and cannibalized her, it's not okay, and nobody sympathizes with that. But with Aqua, people knew Aqua already had a strong network Aqua was making. And if he's such a master manipulator and such a mastermind, let's see how much of a mastermind he is to influence the populations into not being too upset at his sister. He could have found a way. So it was such a cheap cop-out. What the writer did was such a cheap cop-out, but it's important for us to learn these lessons so that upcoming writers don't make such mistakes and you don't fold. Because I'm going to give you a reminder in an upcoming discussion. The creator of Tuchan sold his website. Someone contacted the creator of Tuchan and had him sell his website. So if the creator of Tuchan, etc., can be contacted and paid money to sell something, it's not that difficult based on the landscape that we're in. I mean, go look at the credible podcasters out here just giving you a whole bunch of game about everything that's interconnected, that shows you the actual bigger picture about what's happening right now in history in real time right now and how it applies to you individually, collectively, at a civilizational scale. This is the reminder because the writer did something that made no sense. So it's not only questionable, it's not far-fetched, it's not even speculation at this point. When you do something so out of left field, come on, man. You can't have strategic corrupt selective amnesia. You know how powerful storytelling is across all civilizations, across all history. You know how it can reshape you internally and externally. Do you know the power that storytelling has? How it can impact a person who then goes about navigating locally across the major cities, across the continents. Have a comprehension. Storytelling is really powerful. And if people's getting locked up for smoking a little bit of weed, why aren't certain writers not getting locked up for deliberately looking to deplete the mental health of a lot of people, trying to misdirect people, doing some things that make no sense. And this is where the discernment is so important. Because when you have discernment, you're able to notice when someone is deliberately doing something to get a specific effect. So when there's children, teenagers, young adults getting into this series, and you hear it all throughout the years, the impacts that certain stories, when they get deliberately misdirected, the impacts it has. Because when you go out there, guess what? These characters that have virtues and that resonate with you, they give you reminders. When you're about to fold, you know how many people, especially across the major cities, have mentioned that when they was at a low, there was a character or someone that reminded them about virtues that they internalized and it helped them get through a tough situation. You know how many people's going through cancer, all sorts of things? And so the writer is so irresponsible, strategically took the best aspects of tropes from numerous series to lure people in, and used a whole bunch of writers to lure people in. And then people was like loving it. 8 chapters loving it. And then strategically, while knowing the whole time he was going to do such a horrendous ending, because he basically was making fun of Aqua. He told him in one of the chapters, in chapter 150, he had Kana tell Aqua, oh, what's a death that you want? And he's like, oh, he doesn't want, the most excruciating death. He wants a fast death. And then he went on to literally give Aqua the worst death on purpose. How did you know that from the very beginning, that you was going to be giving him that name because that's the ending you was going to give him? I mean, how thick do you have to be to do that? To have people get emotionally connected to these characters, and then you do things that make no sense with these characters. You disrespect what was built up. It shows the maliciousness. And keep in mind, this civilization is meant to be updated. So there's no cap in here. You have to comprehend the power you have individually, collectively, at the civilizational scale. And the United States is setting the example first. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. There's a lot of fellow bright minds that's putting in the work to place the new required overdue infrastructures and the new required overdue transaction laws. And one of the new required overdue infrastructures is going to be when writers are caught doing things that makes no sense based on what was built up, and it can be proven that it was deliberately done to deplete the masses' quality of life and to deplete their mental health, they pay consequences. That's a crime. It's going to be considered a crime. Oh, Nan, you're capping. What do you mean by that? There's going to be, just like the open source ledger, there's going to be an open source website where people can rate series. And when you press the accountability button on a series, there's going to be all types of shows there. It's not just anime, there's all types of shows. When you see something that's questionable and was intentionally done and makes no sense based on what was built up, people can leave reviews. When you sign into that open source website, you have your ID. And so when you leave a review on a series and you literally state this thing, and you articulate it, this thing was built up this way, and then out of nowhere it was made this way, and the impact it's had on your mental health, that's going to be taken into account. And with the accountability button, when it's pressed and a whole bunch of people's pressing that, every 3 months, we're going to be using our military and we're going to be using our police force locally across the major cities to do extraditions. If the writer is overseas, we're going to do an extradition. And the evidence is going to be all the people making credible reports, articulating the damages and the effects it's having. Because we can't cherry pick and blindly blame the government anymore. We have to be very responsible with who is making what. And if you're making a dark series like the Berserk from the jump, it's okay because you're not trying to lie to the audience. You're not bringing them in, getting them emotionally connected and resonating. And you know that based on what you built up, this is the result you have to get. People's not slow. They know what they're supposed to get. And the fact that you go out of your way to make something that makes no sense just to deplete people's mental health and then throw excuses out here, just some cheap nonsense, it makes no sense. And too many credible people in all these beautiful fields, in psychology, in writing story structure, they've pointed out how it made, honestly, no sense. And we need accountability. This is a wonderful example. And I'm pointing this out so that fellow bright minds can add on to it. You know, because again, when you're updating the civilization, you have to consider what do you want in the civilization. Because you know how many people is over here overdosing and they're walking around day to day down and shit because some idiot went and ruined what they built up. Really consider that, because it could be one of your loved ones at any given point. You have emotional strength, but it's not all right when someone deliberately tries to chip away at your emotional strength, especially when you have enough shit you're dealing with. And so you tap into a series, you go into the series, and you're tapping into a series thinking, okay, let me see what I can get from here so that it can give me a nudge. So that when you leave the series, you're more competent because there's a message that resonates with you and it helps you. It literally impacts you internally and externally. You can't cherry pick that. You cannot have strategic selective amnesia about that. And some writers are deliberately paid money to sabotage their own series. It's not far-fetched. It's not a secret. You see the landscape. Especially when you have all these buffoons during the 2000s making all these hentai nonsense and then not putting their names. Why are you not putting your name? Stand on what you're making. Because they know what they're making, they know the impacts of it, and they know that's not it. Those are lower than paradigms. And where was the accountability? This is why, to have actual accountability, you have to update the civilization. That way you can see the objective, actual, more meaningful results. And you can make actual sustainable, attainable solutions. And it's about you gathering fellow bright minds to place the new required overdue infrastructure. And I'm having these discussions in regards to all these different series to explore. And you, the viewers, the listeners, you can place in the comment section other series you want to be reviewed. And until you don't put something in place, they're going to keep trying to get away with it. And that's why you have to go about placing the new required overdue infrastructures. Comprehend the reason you have to place the new required overdue infrastructures. Because then you got Jimmy in a bad mood and shit in school and shit. And then, you know, nobody's asking Jimmy, yo, why you feeling the way you feeling? You know, nobody's going to ask him. Because you try to dumb it down or downplay the shit. Now you got to take it seriously. You know, Samantha's down. She's in the mood. And you can't pretend that these things isn't impacting people and is rippling out. Whether it's small ripples, grand ripples, it is rippling out, and it's having horrific impacts. You have to be alert about that. You have to stop blindly blaming the government. You have to get more precise. And one key multi-angled attack that's being thrown is some of the writers being paid off to make things that make no sense. They build up a series to a certain level, and then when they get paid off, you notice it. You notice it. Because what the writer then goes on to do makes no sense. And whether you have nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, if they're having a tough time already as is, do you really want a show to be deliberately misdirected as a way to further make them feel hopeless and mess with their mental health? To then try to make them crash out? Because the writer themselves put how horrendous instigators are. And that's the funny part. The writer showed it right in your face. Instigators. So all the effects that's happening, how are you not seeing it? Talk about that. That's not 5D chess. Talk about it. Let's have that interesting conversation. Because this situation right here is a perfect example of what messes with the particular civilization's mental health and how that then worsens the quality of life, because that ripples on to everything else day to day. The people around you. And when they end up operating in lower dead end paradigms, that causes all the destabilization, all the monsters that you then go about complaining about. Huh? It then messes with your parents' mental health. It messes with your friends' mental health. It messes with your cousin's mental health. When you get snappy, because you're in a bad mood. Because you got misdirected, because there's some gullible people out there that because the series was deliberately turned into an unrealistic, horrendous ending, it causes them to see life in a worse way. And then that causes them to not be able to be competent enough to look out for themselves, for others, to share and radiate strength, individually, collectively, at the civilizational scale. This is the reminder to more fellow bright minds, because this is a really important discussion about ways we should clean the environment and the physical reality of the particular civilization. You don't want to just sit around allowing people to be destabilized and turned into monsters. You have to get more precise. What you thought didn't exist in 2018 existed the whole entire time, and there were specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, deliberately and desperately hoarding, discarding, hiding vital information in already existing advanced molecular sciences and technologies. And there's many actual innovators, researchers, and scientists coming from the middle class, coming from the lower and middle class, that have actual incentive to clean and boost the quality of life in the environment and the physical reality of the particular civilization. This is that reminder. The actual innovators come from the core of the population, actually feel what it is that has to be identified, counterbalanced, and legally eradicated, and what has to be drastically decreased out the environment, the physical reality of the particular civilization. There's no capping. Break that down slowly, because it applies to you individually, collectively, at the civilizational scale. Comprehend, it applies to you individually, collectively, at the civilizational scale. And I'm going to keep giving that reminder. Every single time I'm going to take a moment to give that reminder, as we're gathering fellow bright minds and legally mobilizing. But at this point, you don't want the worst of the worst that have accumulated the worst embodiment, that have accumulated the worst aspects, and embody the worst of humanity through be able to misdirect key vital fields of information. You don't want that. You shouldn't want that. You should not want that. And that's the exact reason so many fellow bright minds have been battling all the infighting that's been going on in the top intelligence agencies. Is because of people having changes of heart and wanting to get vital information, vital interconnectable information to the masses, to the majority percentage of the particular civilization. And without getting too into that any further, because there's a whole other discussion that goes into it, you're being reminded about that because it is informational war. And if politicians have been getting bought off in the landscape, especially in the United States, it's about helping humanity, the majority percentage of a particular civilization, align where it counts the most. It's not about you getting beat up anymore by the left for a few years and then you getting beat up by the right for a few years. They're both answering to the handlers that had went unchecked until that ends now. And them handlers being the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, that are being identified, drastically defunded, drastically decreased, discontinued, destroyed, counterbalanced, checked, and legally eradicated. Have a comprehension about that. Checked, counterbalanced, and legally eradicated. Have a comprehension about that. We're not going to get too into it. Just be alert about the landscapes. Be alert about the fact of everything that a ton of fellow credible podcasters have been showing you that's interconnected and shows you the actual bigger picture. It's not surprising when certain writers are getting paid off to sabotage the shows, to strategically pull people in, make a series very appealing, copy and paste tropes from other series to pull people in, and then at the worst time, deliberately write what honestly makes no sense. What makes no sense. And fellow bright minds can add on to that. Let's keep exploring the shenanigans of the writer that made no sense. The shenanigans of the writer that made no sense.
And if you were serious about protecting your sister, you would take that jail time. You would take that jail time. You would take them out and do that jail time. And take them out in a clean way. And if you get caught, it is what it is. You're like 18. And in Japan, the judicial system and the public actually, in significant cases, do take psychology and reasoning into account. And Aqua had people and was in the process of building a strong network. And Aqua was supposed to be manipulative enough to get the people on his side based on the review of the information. And the public was actually not going to have a problem. And there are some bad apples that will try to slander Aqua's sister and those close to Aqua, but that was the whole point about cleaning the landscape and finding legal mobilizations and intelligent ways to actually clean the landscape. And by the way, did they forget that in Japan you can sue for slander? And Aqua was 18, but because the writer wanted to unrealistically write what contradicted everything and objectively made no sense, and because the writer wanted to rush into a different series, to write a different series, the writer made an unrealistic ending to the series. And the writer's writing made ultimately no sense that many credible people have been adding on to. You're around 18, you're not even 20 yet, and the reasons why you would even commit the murder would be applied into your prison sentence. Regardless of how it impacts, his sister's still going to be alive, and you're still going to be there for your sister. So this is the thing. The writer's writing made ultimately no sense that many credible people have been adding on to, you're around 18, you're not even 20 yet. And the reasons why you would even commit the murder would be applied into your prison sentence, regardless of how it impacts, his sister's still going to be alive, and you're still going to be there for your sister. So this is the thing. You care about a trivial event, or you care about being in your sister Ruby's life, the lifetime with your sister. And plus, people will comprehend because people love controversy, people love drama, and it's not going to cause her to be compromised. The landscape is already overpolluted as is. So what are you even talking about when the writer had the father unrealistically telling him, hey, you know, if you kill me, supposedly, she's going to have a horrible life. Because it's going to be people preying on her. It's going to make her destabilized, and it's going to ruin her lifetime. Nah, the actual reality is, guess what? The landscape is already overpolluted as is. And there's people at least going about the process of cleaning locally and continentally, because they break lower dead-end paradigms, and then they go about becoming more competent people, and they share and radiate strength. That's what you see across all top fields of information. And one interconnection that I want viewers to notice is that even in the continents you live in, the top credible podcasters have been showing you what is actually happening, everything that's interconnected in the actual bigger picture. And that's a discussion for a whole other video. So right now, what we're going to do is have some comprehension about the level of disrespect a writer really tried to play with the viewers, as though they're idiots, as though they don't see what was supposed to be done. Regardless of how the writer feels, some might allege, but he felt burnt out for X, Y, and Z. Nah, even if you feel burnt out, it doesn't cost that much to have someone near you adjust and make the correct conclusion. It's not that difficult because you built it up. You yourself, you built it up through numerous chapters and arcs. You built it up. No one else. You built it up. And so based on what you built up, you have to maintain that energy. You're not supposed to wreck this. That completely makes no sense whatsoever. Oh, the father apparently didn't dodge that flimsy shove. Are you serious? Oh, he stabbed himself. Are you serious? So you, the viewers, have to comprehend that when you have people, have family members that are actual psychologists, and also have family members that actually indulge in credible story structure, when you get people such as that to speak on it, and they speak on it and it resonates with the masses, that's when you have whole entire fandoms and the vast majority burning books, because they notice how the writer tried to be cheap and finesse people who dedicated time, souls that dedicated a part of their lifetime within these 100 years that they have in a brief planetary body that anchors them into this particular civilization. In this pocket of time, no cap, and you break that down slowly depending. Your discernment, you're going to comprehend that depending how much lived experiences you've had, depending how many knowledge and insights you have absorbed, is going to determine how much you comprehend in regards to what was just stated in the sequence it was stated as. Depending how much actual discernment levels you have and computational abilities, it all plays a point how much you comprehend. This is that reminder. The writer really disrespected his own work, all the people that tuned in, going through their own personal things, and they go into this story to see what resonates and to get a nudge, to get a boost, so that when they leave this book and they go out to navigate the tangible environment, the physical reality, they're able to make strides. They're able to have a reminder that helps them become more competent people as they navigate and they share and radiate strength so that when they get into those moments where now they have some information, they can either give information to people in all these different fields that can boost the quality of life, or they can withhold the information. And we see what's been happening. We see the infighting that's been happening in the top intelligence agencies, the cartel problem, the fentanyl problem, all of it's interconnected, the misdirecting the population's military into destabilizing the other continents, all interconnected, the extracting currency out of the populations and throwing it into strategic data and programs and offshore. Black budget projects is all interconnected. It's more than just Danny Casolaro. It's more than just Robert Sala's. Too many credible fellow bright minds and actual innovators from the core that represent the majority percentage of particular civilization, that have incentives to actually boost the quality of the particular civilization, have spoken out and have been speaking on the actual bigger picture. All right, there's some good oligarchs and there are specific corrupt oligarchs. There's only a few good oligarchs and there's too many specific corrupt oligarchs bad. Apples that have been harming, that have been hijacking key government sectors and misdirecting extracted currency and misdirecting key government sectors against the majority percentage of particular civilization. And it doesn't have to be that way. The environment, the physical reality does not have to be that way. Each continent has to clean its room first and has to find the new sustainable ways to make the actual cleaning and accountability of not just the strategically destabilized middle and lower parts of the civilization, not just the strategically destabilized majority percentage humanity of the particular civilization, but especially make the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples at the very top be checked, counterbalanced, and legally eradicated. It's overdue. The amount that had went unchecked ends. That is not up for debate. The greatest debates have already happened. Everything unchecked ends now, and the corrupt, inexcusable, unchecked percentages ends now and is drastically decreased. And that's the reason why you have a lot of people now of the masses moving in silence, and they're working on the required overdue new infrastructures and the required overdue new transaction laws. And if you're curious about what that is, there's a whole other video discussion on that. We're not going to talk about that here. Just know that there's enough credible people out here. There's too many credible podcasters out here that have been showing you everything that's interconnected in the actual bigger picture, especially about the United States. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. There's a lot of people gathering. There's a lot of innovators from the lower and the middle class that have incentive to boost the quality of life and to actually clean and get rid of the components. Within the environment, the physical reality that has been holding back the particular civilization, the components being the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples that have been misusing and misdirecting extracted currency to throw psychological and biological overpollutions and multi-angled attacks against the majority percentage of the particular civilization, desperately extracting and misdirecting currency as ways to throw people into lower dead-end paradigms through large percentages of the masses and the particular civilization into lower dead-end paradigms. Because they don't want people rediscovering certain knowledge and insight. They don't want you rediscovering vital information that can then turn you into more competent internally and externally, more competent because of what that does. Because when you become more competent and you go about locally navigating and navigating across the cities and wherever you go locally and continentally, when you're operating from a place of clarity, you share and radiate strength. You're able to transmute. And when you're interconnected with fellow bright minds are going about that, it reshapes the environment and the physical reality of the particular civilization and such. A way that benefits the majority percentage of the particular civilization and doesn't benefit all of them specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. And we can get into the nitty gritty, and that's going to be saved for a whole other video. Discussion, it's going to be in the channel. We're going to be giving reminders, and you can go find that at your own pace when you're ready, but just have that comprehension. Just because you don't see it right in your face doesn't mean it's not happening. And especially what has already been blatantly in your face, the inexcusable infighting. Because people are suddenly having the significant changes of heart, because people are suddenly in these different fields when you go up into a certain field. Let's put it like this. Like, let's say I'm going to give you, let's say person A has spent 40 years. He's nearing 50 and he's never encountered specific insights that sparks his brain and sparks his consciousness to where he starts cleaning his heart. The moment he starts cleaning his heart, and he's in the CIA. When he first went to the CIA let him in because, hey, this guy's not going to do anything. But suddenly when that guy encounters information that starts internally healing himself, guess what happens? And by the way, there's enough credible people who've been in the CIA and they've had podcasts. So go find it. Go find it about who the CIA cherry picks and who the CIA doesn't cherry pick. All right, go find that and then come back here. And let's go back into the example of person A. Initially goes into the CIA and he doesn't know what the fuck is actually going on, but he just goes in because he just wants to do his stuff. He just wants to make some money. It's a good title. He can flex the title and work, and he doesn't completely remember. He's going in there he hasn't become as alert. And as the years go by and he suddenly finds some information that triggers his consciousness, he's like, oh snap, he just encountered information that would benefit the populations if they knew about it, but it wouldn't benefit the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. And he becomes more alert as he spends time in that field. Oh snap, it's being misdirected and hijacked by specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples. And then he starts realizing, wait a minute, if right now I make $1 million and 5 generations from now, those that come after me make $1 billion and a whole bunch of money, but I come from the core of the population. I feel the pain. I'm from the middle class. I feel the pain of the population. I'm a grown-ass warrior. I'm a grown-ass man. I consider myself with the actions that I take. I'm a grown-ass warrior. I'm just looking to boost the quality of life of the civilization that I'm in, that I'm navigating. Do you think if I just made $1 million, do you think that those that come after, you think I want them to go unchecked? Do you think I would want them to make billions of dollars of extracted currency from the population to then misuse those billions of dollars that they extracted from the populations to throw artificial infrastructures that psychologically and biologically depletes the quality of life and throws large percentages of particular civilization into lower dead-end paradigms? Do you think I basically want those that come after me to misuse currency? Do you really think I want them to go unchecked? No, I don't want them to go unchecked. Would you want those that come after you to go unchecked? No, would you want those of the populations to check and counterbalance them? If you have enough comprehension, you're going to say yes. But what has not been, actually think about what has not been in the environment, that placing the new required overdue infrastructure is going to directly impact and correlate and clean the environment and physical reality of the particular civilization. Note what's in the environment that has been causing the specific corrupt oligarchs, bad apples, to go unchecked, to be able to buy off weakened-hearted politicians, to be able to misdirect the judicial system, where basically if you have a certain lawyer and you have a lot of money, the lawyer gives you less years, the lawyer negotiates. Less years, the lawyer negotiates and gets you less years, huh? That shows you the inefficiency of the judicial system, which is in the process of getting regulated, counterbalanced, and revamped. But to do that, there's a whole other required overdue new infrastructures the population has to place. And for that discussion, there's a whole other, because
I'm not going to go into the whole explanation. There's a separate explanation that breaks all the information down. Y'all going to have to go find that video over there, because if it's important to you and it resonates with you, then that means I want you to make all the actual effort and the sustainable, attainable solutions that you learn and the insights you can add on to, and that you can rediscover the better worthy alignments. I want you to be engaged. I want you to go and find it just to search it, because the blueprint itself, there's enough fellow bright minds adding on to it. It's not even minds. It's something that we're sharing. Us fellow bright minds, we're sharing it. It's objective. And it is very precise. Instead of blindly blaming the government, no, don't blindly blame against the government. Get precise. It's very precise with the exact legal sequences of actions. The required overdue new infrastructures and the required overdue new transaction laws. And when you hear about the required overdue new transaction laws, you're going to comprehend how fun it's going to be for podcasters. Why is it going to be fun? In the channel, the exact breakdown of how it works and what's going on with that is in the channel, and you can go find it in the other video discussion. And getting back into this, just have a comprehension that the landscape speaks for itself. There's been enough credible podcasters showing you the actual bigger picture. It's all interconnected. It's showing you the actual bigger picture and who is going to have to pay legal consequences